In this video, we shall be doing a countdown of the top 5 African Church Fathers. Before we begin, I want to lay down a foundation and clarify what we mean by Church Fathers without going off topic. The global recognition and definition of a Church Father can vary, largely because of Christian traditions that may or may not recognize certain early Christian thinkers due to disagreements with their theology. Not all early Christian thinkers taught what we now embrace as orthodox or core Christian beliefs. Some were even at odds with the established church of their time. Therefore, some Christians would not view them as their spiritual fathers or recognize them as church saints. In this video, our definition of church father will be based on 3 main traits. Number 1, a Christian theologian or writer from the early centuries of Christianity. Number 2, they were influential in establishing the intellectual and doctrinal foundations of Christianity. Number 3, their writings were used as a reference point for their successors, especially when disagreements about faith or practice existed. Number 5, Tertullian of Carthage. Imagine a bustling Roman city in North Africa, Carthage, modern-day Tunisia, a hub of commerce, intellect, and power. In the midst of its grandeur, around 150 AD, a man named Tertullian was born. Trained in Roman law, steeped in rhetoric, and well-versed in the philosophies of his age, Tertullian was a man of sharp intellect and undeniable charisma. His father, a Roman official, ensured he received the finest education, preparing him for a life of prestige and influence. But Tertullian's journey would take an unexpected turn. In a time when Christianity was not only frowned upon, but actively persecuted, Tertullian abandoned the comfort of his privileged life and embraced the Christian faith. With his legal mind and fiery passion, he became one of Christianity's boldest defenders and sharpest writers. Tertullian is often remembered as the man who coined the term Trinity. He utilized his legal background to describe God in relational terms as one substantia in 3 personae, laying the groundwork for future theological debates. In his powerful works like Praescriptione Haereticorum and De Carne Christi, Tertullian tackled heresies and affirmed the dual nature of Christ, fully human and fully divine. His bold defense of Trinitarianism in Adversus Praxian silenced many heretical voices of his time, and yet Tertullian was not without controversy. He boldly asked, "What does Athens have to do with Jerusalem?" A rhetorical challenge to those who sought to mix Greek philosophy with Christian doctrine. But paradoxically, he benefited from philosophical reasoning masterfully in his apologetics, defending Christianity as a faith both rational and deeply rooted in truth. Though Tertullian was never canonized due to his later divergence from mainstream church views, his legacy remains undeniable. His writings shaped Western Christianity, his words echoed through centuries, and his fearless intellect left a mark on the church. Tertullian of Carthage, a man of passion, intellect, and unyielding faith, rightfully earns his place among the greatest African church fathers. Number 4, Saint Cyprian of Carthage. Born and educated in law in the vibrant city of Carthage, 200 AD, Saint Cyprian was a man of profound intellect and leadership. His conversion to Christianity around 248 AD marked the beginning of a transformative journey. Within a year, he rose to become the Bishop of Carthage, a position he would hold with unwavering dedication. Cyprian's leadership became a beacon of hope and strength during severe persecution. Arrested, exiled, and ultimately martyred in 258 AD for refusing to renounce his faith, he exemplified courage and steadfast belief. Saint Cyprian was not only a spiritual leader, but also a visionary organizer. He convened a council of 87 bishops in Carthage in 256 AD, addressing critical issues such as church unity, discipline, and the authority of the Bishop of Rome. His influential work, De Catholicae Ecclesiae Unitate, on the unity of the Catholic Church, underscored the essential role of bishops in maintaining church unity and doctrinal integrity. He emphasized apostolic succession as the cornerstone of ecclesiastical church authority. However, Cyprian was not without his disagreements. He clashed with the Bishop of Rome over the issue of rebaptism, arguing that baptisms performed by heretics were invalid and required repetition. In a bold move, he asserted the independence of African bishops, refusing to yield to Roman authority even under the threat of excommunication. Saint Cyprian's writings and leadership have profoundly influenced church governance, particularly during persecution and theological disputes. His courage in defending the faith and dedication to church unity remain timeless lessons for the global Christian community. Saint Cyprian of Carthage, a bishop, a martyr, and a steadfast defender of the Church, stands as a towering figure in the history of African Christianity. Number 3. Origen of Alexandria. In the ancient city of Alexandria, a melting pot of cultures, philosophy, and religion, a young scholar named Origen was born 185 AD. From an early age, Origen displayed an insatiable thirst for knowledge, and by the time he was 18, he was already lecturing at the renowned catechetical school of Alexandria. Eventually, he rose to become its head, following in the intellectual footsteps of his mentor, Clement of Alexandria. Known for his ascetic lifestyle and unwavering devotion, Origen practiced rigorous self-denial, living a life of discipline and sacrifice. His dedication to scholarship resulted in an astonishing literary output, including the monumental Hexapla and his foundational work, On First Principles, which became cornerstones of Christian theology. Origen was a pioneer in biblical scholarship, delving into allegorical interpretations of Scripture and seeking deeper spiritual meanings behind the text. However, not all his teachings were embraced by the wider church. Concepts such as the pre-existence of souls, universal salvation, and subordination within the Trinity later sparked significant controversy. These views were ultimately condemned at the Second Council of Constantinople in 553 AD. Despite the controversies surrounding his theology, Origen's influence on Christian thought is undeniable. Many of his ideas shaped theological discourse and biblical interpretation for centuries to come. Though he is not officially canonized or universally accepted as a church father, he is often referred to as the father of Christian thought. Origen of Alexandria, a brilliant scholar, a devoted ascetic, and a trailblazer in Christian theology, remains one of the most influential and complex figures in early Christianity. Number 2. Athanasius of Alexandria. Born in Alexandria, 298 AD, Athanasius did not grow up as a Christian. Despite his mother's influence, he initially embraced Hellenistic philosophy. Later, he became a staunch defender of Orthodox Christianity and served as the Bishop of Alexandria. Nicknamed the Black Dwarf by opponents for his short stature and dark complexion, Athanasius is considered the father of orthodoxy. Athanasius was a fierce opponent of Arianism, a belief that denied the full divinity of Christ. He was a central figure in the defense of the Nicene Creed, formulated at the First Council of Nicaea, 325 AD. Despite multiple exiles, he continued to write extensively against Arianism, advocating for Orthodox Christianity even from afar. In his works, Athanasius affirmed Christ's full divinity, laying the theological foundation for understanding the Incarnation and Atonement. His influence extended to major figures like Augustine and shaped later councils such as the Council of Chalcedon, 451 AD. Athanasius also played a pivotal role in the formation of the biblical canon. In his 39th Festal Letter, 367 AD, he provided the earliest known list of the 27 books of the New Testament as we know them today. Athanasius of Alexandria, a defender of orthodoxy, a theological giant, and a key figure in the formation of Christian scripture, remains one of the most significant church fathers in history. Number 1. Augustine of Hippo. In the year 354 AD, in the small North African town of Tagaste, modern Algeria, a child was born who would grow to become one of Christianity's most profound thinkers, Augustine of Hippo. Raised by a devout Christian mother, Monica, and a pagan father, Augustine's early life was marked by restlessness, ambition, and a deep hunger for truth. As a young man, Augustine pursued philosophy and rhetoric, immersing himself in various schools of philosophical thought, including Manichaeism and Neoplatonism. Yet, despite his intellectual pursuits, a sense of spiritual emptiness lingered. It was in Milan, under the influence of the wise and eloquent Bishop Ambrose, that Augustine experienced a profound conversion. In a garden, he heard a child's voice saying, "Take and read." He opened the Bible to Romans 13:13-14, and his life was forever changed. Baptized in 387 AD, Augustine went on to become the Bishop of Hippo, serving tirelessly as a pastor, theologian, and defender of the faith. His writings shaped the doctrines of grace, original sin, and the nature of the Church. Among his most famous works are Confessions, an introspective spiritual autobiography, and The City of God, a monumental reflection on divine providence and the destiny of humanity. Augustine's influence transcends denominations, impacting Catholic, Orthodox, and Protestant traditions alike. His legacy as the father of Western theology endures to this day. Saint Augustine of Hippo, a philosopher, theologian, and spiritual giant, remains an enduring light in the history of Christianity. African church fathers were present at the beginning of the early development of the established Christian faith. Christianity, as we know it today, would have been very different if there were no contributions from African believers. Roman North Africa and Hellenized Egypt were the birthplace of many Christian heresies, but also their early opposition apologists. African Christian leaders valued church unity, holiness, and the desire to understand God. Many of them lived and died during a time when Christianity was persecuted, divided, and challenged on multiple fronts. African bishops had the difficult role of leading and unifying believers after the devastation of Christian persecution, while constantly defending against heretical teachings. These African church fathers laid the foundations for theological ideas that are still discussed today. They might not have all reflected an orthodox or biblical understanding of the nature of God, but even those who are considered controversial and labeled heretical by branches of the Christian faith, they must be credited for indirectly forcing the historical church to think and reflect on what they believe and how it's articulated.